Going now, yes.
The time being 6 o'clock, we'll open the Tilton Zoning Board meeting for the month of July for one and only case here. And without anything further to do, we'll go ahead and get started. I'll introduce to begin with, and then you can present your situation. First case we hear will be the ZBA case 1405, a variance application seeking relief from zoning article 2.4.4, parentheses D, and zoning article 7 to allow for the installation and operation of playing field lighting at a light of 70 feet at the Tilton School's athletic facility located at 21 Pillsbury Lane in the Village Residential District. Map U7, lot 39. In that case, I'll turn it over to you and you can proceed with your application. Is anybody here on the board going to disclose by themselves? All good? Okay, it's all yours.
Okay, great. My name is Peter Saliba, and I'm the head of school, and it's kind of exciting for us to be here at this meeting because we were the recipient of a very generous donation to build the field, and we didn't think originally we were going to be able to fund lights, but we've had some additional funds given to the school that has put us in this meeting, which is exciting for us. And I've brought two members of our team today to present the case. Nathan Collins is our contractor, and Fred Heath is my director of facilities. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to have Nathan talk about the lighting and what we're requesting, and then we can have follow-up questions with me and Fred, as it were. So thank you for your time tonight, and I'll turn it over to Nathan.
All right. Thank you. Again, for the record, my name is Nathan Collins. I am a project manager with RAD Sports. We are, this project's a little unique in the sense that we're the general contractor. However, I'm also the engineer for the project. I did the site layout. We did this project kind of as a design build, RAD Sports, in conjunction with a landscape architecture firm. So I've been involved from the beginning. Was in front of this board originally when we got our, or the planning board originally when we got our planning board approval. As Peter had noted, we're back in front of you today, basically requesting a variance in the height requirements for proposed athletic field lighting. The Tilton bylaws, similar to a lot of towns throughout New England, have fairly extensive lighting bylaws, and they were written really for outdoor parking lot lighting. Many of them have restrictions as it relates to height. One of the issues with height as it relates to lighting an athletic field is because the fields are so wide and long. By using poles at that height restriction, there's several issues. One of them is safety for the athletes. If you can imagine a lacrosse player or a football player trying to catch a ball that's up in the air, as they look up, the lights are directly in their face, it can be a safety issue. Soccer goalie looking to stop a ball, lacrosse goalie looking to stop a small ball that's coming at them at 75 to 100 miles an hour. It can be a safety issue. The other issue is monitoring the spill that is impacting the abutters. When it comes to athletic field lighting, or lighting in general, I have a couple different handouts. You guys can pass these along. These were provided to me by Musco. Musco is the manufacturer that we are using or proposing for the athletic field lighting. They are hands down the leading manufacturer in athletic field lighting as it relates to off-site glare protection for glare, and as full coverage as possible on fixtures associated with athletic field lighting. Most bylaws talk about a full cutoff lamp, which does not exist in the world of athletic field lighting. There are no 90-degree lamps in athletic field lighting. So as that diagram shows, if we were to maintain the town bylaw and build these structures at a height of I believe it's 35 feet for max structure height in this particular zone. It would be near impossible to limit the off-site spillage to the abutters. By going higher, in a perfect world, we would go with 100-foot poles, everything would come down, but we try to kind of meet in the middle, if you will. What we're proposing is a 70-foot pole height, and there is some spillage on that property line, on the direct property line. However, by the time we get across the street to the abutting property, it's at levels that are equal to essentially the light of a full moon. In addition to that, we've also proposed a series of additional trees along that property line that's particularly associated with the abutters on, the name of the street escapes me, not Pillsbury, but Prospect. So again, as an effort to work with the abutters, because we know, this wasn't an athletic field 6 months ago, and it also wasn't an athletic field with lights. We've tried to be a courteous neighbor and work with everyone involved. So again, our request, we feel, is justified in the sense that by going to a 35-foot height, we could stick with the bylaws, which is an allowable.
Wait a minute, what did you just say? Going to the 35-foot?
By going to a 35-foot height pole, we could stick to the bylaws. However, it would be, probably we would have to add 4 poles per side to make sure you had the coverage and the proper lighting on the actual playing surface itself, so the kids were safe. However, again, this is just another photo of a field that has poles that are 35 to 40 feet high. It results in significant glare not only to the athletes but also to the spectators, and would result in more spillage onto the abutting properties.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. The trees that you mentioned, that you're going to establish to protect Prospect, are they going to be little 6-foot trees to start with, or are you going to put rather mature trees?
Currently proposed, they are a 2.5-inch caliber at install, so it will take some time for them to grow in.
What type of trees will they be?
I don't have the type. There's, I think, 27 new trees and shrubs that we're installing on the site. Combination of flowering and evergreen.
Anything other than evergreen is not going to serve the purpose, because in the fall, when you have all your fall games, there's leaves on them. So that's going to pretty much have to be evergreens. Okay. Is that a problem? Is that a question?
I don't think the school would be opposed to.
No, I don't think, I'm not familiar enough with the exact planning documents to say exactly what trees they are, but I think planting evergreens would be a prudent step in that situation.
And they haven't been ordered and they're not planted yet, so there's certainly, in terms of if that was going to be an item on an order of conditions, I can't imagine the school would have any issue in modifying the plantings along that side.
I mean, essentially that is a planning board issue, but
Sure.
in as much as it's for this board, but we might recover at this point in time, and then the planning board, which you're going to meet with here in another 45 minutes.
And I do, and I apologize for not getting these to the board beforehand.
One of the things I asked Musco to look at is that when they look at their spillage or their illumination plans, which were part of the original submission, they look at everything in a 2D format, basically if everything was flat. This is a unique situation in the sense that we actually have a retaining wall on that side, which will help buffer some of that spill. If you can think of a field, if it were to lay flat like that, as the light hits, your glare is associated with the light actually hitting the ground and then reflecting up. Because on that particular side we have, in some instances, a wall as high as 13 feet, that actually is going to help with the glare, specifically on the neighbor's side. So I do have, associated with that property line, I do have a revised illumination plan that I just would like to submit. I just received this the other day, I thought you could hand those out. But, I think in the original plan,
Just to see what the wall is.
so to give you an idea, this School Street is here, and Pillsbury Lane comes up here, so these are the abutting properties. And I think if you look at the original illumination plan, we had light levels, some of them as high as 10, I think, on the original submission. And now I don't believe there's anything higher than 4 at the property line. And by the time we get across the street, they're at the 0.2 to 0.1 level, which again is equivalent to the illumination of a full moon. And one other advantage, again, just as some information to your boards and to the board and whatever others may be here, Musco offers a 25-year warranty. So they guarantee the light levels at installation throughout those 25 years. A lot of other lighting manufacturers will guarantee certain illumination, but then over time that may creep or get brighter. Musco is not one of those. They guarantee that light level from day one to for 25 years.
Are there gonna be any bleachers or anything along here?
Along which side? Sorry?
On any side?
There is, that is a concrete pad that is going in for potential bleachers. However, that is an item that we haven't received funding yet. The pad infrastructure is in place, however, there are no bleachers proposed at this moment.
Board have any questions?
Yeah.
Fire away.
Mr. Collins,
Yes?
I interpret the last statement you made about the 25-year guarantee as sort of a reassurance that if there are any issues with excessive light splatter, that the manufacturer will tend to those?
Correct. What will happen if we're granted the opportunity to install the lights is immediately upon installation, a representative from Musco will come out to the site. They will walk the property line and they'll take light level readings with your typical the device. You hold at your waist and take those readings. If they do not meet what is submitted in front of you, those fixtures will be re-aimed accordingly. The way these lights are manufactured, they're all handmade, right in Muscatine, Iowa. So they get sent to the site. Sometimes they get tweaked during shipping, and when they put all the poles in, they turn the lights on. They're usually pretty good, but there might be an instance where one fixture is just pointing in the wrong direction. So they'll come out, they'll do a light level reading along that property line. They'll also take levels on the field because they want to make sure that they're providing the athletes what they proposed. And if there's any issues, they will adjust that accordingly so they meet what's proposed. And as part of their 25-year warranty, they guarantee that light level for the 25 years. So if there's ever an instance where the neighbors or someone files a complaint, they'll come out on their dime to, again, just verify the light level readings that they're in compliance with what was originally submitted.
Thank you. That's what I needed to know.
Yeah. And again, just to give you an idea, this is a photo, kind of an up-close photo of what a typical Musco fixture looks like. Again, it's very unique in the industry. It's as close to 100% cutoff in terms of athletic field lighting as any manufacturer that's out there.
Yeah, you don't see that shield or anything. It's
Yeah.
nice. It's almost like downcast lighting.
They try to get it as close as possible. In a perfect world, we would run beams across the field and shoot all the light directly down. It's just not cost effective. And it's all American made.
I'm glad you pointed that out.
Could I make an additional statement?
Sure.
There are cheaper manufacturers that we could have gone with that didn't have this light control. And so this is effectively the best that you can get in this scenario, which was a decision that we made based, I think, primarily on our relationship with the abutters and the people on the property. We've also been communicating with many of our abutters about this situation before tonight, just trying to work within a lighting plan and all those pieces as well.
Mhm. Well, they'll have an opportunity to speak tonight too, so give us their thoughts on it.
And again, just in terms of some of the other technologies associated with the system that the school is purchasing, there, as part of the submission, the school submitted kind of a light usage plan. What's important to understand is this system is controlled wirelessly. It's set up electronically, it's scheduled electronically, so it's not a system that a kid can just come down and flip a switch and turn on whenever they want. It's going to be keyed access. Only certain people or facility managers within the Tilton School have access to turn the lights physically on. Everything else will be turned on through an online system that is all controlled and run through Musco's central database, which basically means if there's an issue with the lights, Musco will know about it before abutters or the school will. It's all controlled wirelessly. It's called the controlling system. Again, unique to Musco. Just again, something I wanted to add in terms of the effort that Tilton School is making to put the Cadillac of systems up here to make sure everyone is appeased, if you will.
Mhm. Well, I mean, from my past experience of many years with the town and living here for a couple of decades, the school has always been very easy to work with when it kind of came to the community. So, does anyone else have any questions? Otherwise, we should probably go into the,
We have no
so all the facilities manager.
I'm here to represent Nathan's input for the questions he raised or answered from the facilities perspective. He highlighted the control element of it. I think is one of the most important things we can relay right now. The master controls is, you get the spillage, it's monitored constantly, it's recognized remotely before we even recognize the problem. The system coverage is there so that we don't have to worry about incremental issues going away. It's recognized immediately and controlled immediately. It's very, very high tech. So, again, recognizing when we can use the lights and such, it's pre-programmed. We can't go outside that envelope as an example. Once we establish that, we can program those parameters.
If you could put a guess on how frequently you would be using the lights in the field, what would you throw out there as far as how often?
We have a draft lighting proposal that we constructed with the neighbors, and we submitted as part of our packet.
Right, I just wanted this verbalization for the meeting as well.
So we think that the majority of the use of the lights will be after October 1st, when we start to get impacted by the loss of daylight. And then once we go to daylight savings time, there's that 2-week time period in November where the sun sets at 4:30 or 4:45, and we run athletic practices until about 6:30 or 7 o'clock. And so I think the primary high use of the lights will be in the end of the fall season and the very beginning of the spring season, when we haven't adjusted to daylight savings. We do hold games on Wednesdays and Saturdays primarily. We don't think that there'll be a lot of Wednesday use, but we think that there may be sometimes on Saturdays, especially after October 1st, where we might go on until 9 p.m. I think is what I've listed. In some cases, we might host a football game on a Friday night with either Franklin or Tilton, and having that be part of our plan as well. But that lighting plan was put in place after discussions with some of the abutters and the different pieces. And it is more restrictive than what's permissible. I think what's permissible now is till 11 p.m. in terms of lighting. So we tried to work with the neighbors.
Okay, thank you. Anybody want to touch
Good.
on? Joyce? Nothing? Well, that being said, I'll open it up to public comment at this point in time. You just state your name and
Jason Summers. We're probably most affected. We're directly across the street. Probably our front yard begins maybe 55 or 60 feet from the edge of the field. And my question is just in regards to that spillage. You said a few times that it was going to be similar to that of a full moon. How far out does that cast? I mean, full moon could cast.
Sure. I think, if you don't have a copy of the illumination plan, I'm sorry, there might be some extra copies up there, but I believe when they do their illumination plans, they go out 100-foot radius from the light poles. So again, across, the streets aren't shown. I'm just kind of guesstimating based on approximate distances, the right-of-way distance. It's 0.1 to 0.2 where that street lands. So I guess to answer your question, when the lights are on, the light level in your front yard would be equivalent to that of if there was a full moon in the sky. It's not a situation where there'll be a spot in your yard where it's 0.1 and at your house it'll be 0.7. As it gets further away, as you can imagine, it gets less and less and less. So it may not even be that bright at your actual house line. But without having the actual houses shown on that plan, it's hard to say exactly.
So having said that, where I live off to one side, but my bedroom is on the second floor, and I have the best view of all the work that's going on right now.
Sure.
So, but because I'm up higher and off just a little bit, does that mean I'm probably getting a less?
Yes, all the readings, when you talk about light level readings in this industry, it's all calculations at waist height. I believe that it's 32 inches from your waist. It's a reading that it checks the illumination. So as you get higher, it's darker. Yes.
one other question. Would you give us your name too for the purpose of
Tanis
that?
Gates.
I'm sorry?
Tanis Gates. Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Yeah, Tanis,
Kenneth?
with a T. Tanis,
Tennis.
yes, Tanis Gates.
Okay, you got that.
And that's 6 Daniel.
How far would you estimate that your house, I know where your house is, but it's been a while since I've been up there. What would be the roughly footage that you are from the west side of the field there?
Well, I'm probably 70 feet from the edge of the road. So then from the edge of the road to the field would probably be 60.
Yeah, I don't know what the dimension of that right of way is, but I know the poles themselves are 20 feet from the property line, from the Tilton property line. That was a zoning regulation as it related to the wall height. And then if you add the right-of-way, if it's a 30 or 40-foot right-of-way, so probably another 50 to 60 feet, plus or minus.
Did you get a chance to see this? This is showing the actual light dispersion itself as it goes away from the field to the west.
Oh, I see. So you're saying that the point one is the
Correct.
full moon?
Mm-hmm.
But these last, from that last point one to where it's 0.0, that, you said it was like 100 feet, is that what you said?
I would have to try to scale it up that plan, but I would guess that's approximately, the field itself is about 210 feet wide, so,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, 100 if not more.
Is there anything further from the public? I'm gonna let the planning board,
I am not the planning board. I am,
I am.
but I am not.
by all means, what have you got for us?
Pat Constantino.
Yes.
My concern is that when this initiated at the planning board last year, when they were coming to the planning board to build the field, they were adamant about not putting in lighting. And there were no plans for night games, there were no plans for late evening games. All of that were going to be accommodated by daylight. So there was no need for it because there was no money for that. So one of the questions is why the big change? And I'm listening to this gentleman answer, or try to answer, the abutters' questions, and I hear, I don't know, I guess. Perhaps I don't know that data, I don't have it in front of me. And I'm thinking that perhaps maybe we need that data because, you know, having close immediate family members living by a field, I know their nights become day when they have night games next to them. And it's not a pretty sight when you have children trying to get up for school when their nights become day. And it's a real concern for me having to put 70 feet high lights, and that's my understanding. That's what I was told. If they're higher than that, I'd really like to know that. But it is a concern for me, for our abutters. They're asking legitimate questions. I think that they should have some data in front of them, and you folks should have that data, the answers to their questions. I haven't heard the answers yet to what they're asking.
Okay, hold on just one. Who was that? Oh, well, that's true. Let me just preface anything at this point in time that what you're bringing up is a valid question. Gentlemen did touch on that, the fact that they didn't have the funds and now they have the funds. But this was conversation between them and the board, planning board. Okay, so he basically explained that why the lighting came into being is because then they didn't have the funds and now they do. You apparently weren't here for that. That was spoke to initially. But that would be the answer to your question. If you want to go anything further than that, I suggest you do with it with your planning board meeting right after our meeting.
I think I'd really like to hear the answers to the questions that the abutters asked. I have not heard the answers to those questions yet.
Which question are you did you have questions you didn't get an answer to?
I was satisfied. I was satisfied with the answer I was given.
Okay. And that's what I'm concerned abutter, and the abutter is satisfied with his answer. I don't know where you're going with the whole thing.
He didn't produce any of the data that he's
We
just
showed him.
guessing. I don't
showed
know
him the
how many
dispersion.
feet away your house is, so I
We
can't
showed
tell
him
you
the
what.
dispersion data right here.
He didn't know how many feet away their house is without knowing exactly how many feet away their house is from the light. How can you determine how it's going to affect? That's a guess.
Right, our requirement as.
Educated guess
Our
probably,
requirement
but
as an
still a guess.
applicant is to show the light level readings at the property line, not 100 feet from the property. We've done our best to try to answer the abutter's question, and we've answered it to our best ability. And again, if I didn't answer your question, or didn't provide you the information you're looking for, I'd be happy to try to do it.
Now, be sure of putting a scale to it.
The plans are to a scale, so I do not have a scale on me, but we could certainly scale off that plan. So give you the light level reading at 100 feet.
Do you want to put it to your scale up there?
Sure. You said you think you're about 100 feet from?
Yeah.
So to the edge of, this plan is a 40 scale plan, and the distance from, as we discussed, approximated, the distance from the closest pole to what is Prospect Street is 50 feet to the edge of the road.
And you said you thought,
To the edge of the road on the side of the field, not on my side.
correct.
Okay. And then probably from whatever the width of the road is,
30 feet.
30 feet.
Right.
And then from the edge of the road to my house is probably 70. So 100 feet plus the,
Correct.
so about 150 feet from the edge of from the light pole to the front of my house.
Correct. And if we were to, let's see if this is a scale. That's 100 scale.
To the residual light.
150 feet. 150, according to 0.1.
Right.
Well, within the 0.1, you get closer. Zero, it's 0.1 at 80 feet. So there's plenty of leeway there. It's well on the conservative side of it. What I think I did there. Yes, that would be the next thing on the agenda, but that being said, is the public have anything further? Yes, Jane?
Yes, I have 3 questions. The first question involves the frequency. I don't think that question was really answered. We were giving a time period when it would be used. Is it expected it would be used every night during the week, during school?
I said Saturdays and Wednesdays, and possibly for intramural activities, I assume.
Okay.
Yeah, we submitted a lighting plan with the documents which details that.
Secondly, are there any similar lights installed anywhere in New Hampshire so that we could go and see the actual effect?
Yes, there is in Laconia. Laconia School just put a Musco system in. Mechanical.
All right. And thirdly, are there any people from School Street here? About people near School Street? Because I just wondered what the effects of the lighting will be as it spills down. Is it going to be directed away from the School Street area?
Again, the distance, Musco, that distance I believe is over 400 feet to School Street from the closest light pole. So
Okay.
the light level will be unchanged
Okay.
at School Street.
Thank you. That's it.
But keep in mind that these kind of questions that you're asking now are really planning board issues. But
I know that,
you're gonna
but I'm
rehash the
asking,
same
I'm
things
asking
again.
because you're going to
Uh,
grant or
no,
not
we're-
grant a
we're-
variance, so that's why I'm
We're looking strictly
asking.
at the height
All right?
and whether there was anything detrimental to the height as opposed to the actual planning board issues themselves.
I understand that, but as I said, you're going to either issue or not issue a variance, so I want those questions out in the open now. Thank you.
Okay, but I mean, you're entirely within your rights to bring them up at the planning board.
I understand that.
And go into that kind of a depth. Yes.
Catherine Dawson.
What was your name again?
Catherine Dawson, I think. When the Lowe's complex was put in, they put lights up on the top of their garden outdoor area, and there were security lights. They were downcasting onto the front area and the side area where deliveries might be made, on the Grant Street side, if you will. There is a fence that was erected, I believe it's 8 feet, between the Lowe's and the Grant Street properties. Two of the residences on Grant Street immediately had problems with the residual light that affected them, and they were on the downhill of that fence and those lights. I was with the code enforcement officer when we visited Lowe's to investigate that, and sure enough, if you stood in their backyard at night with those lights on, it might as well have been dawn. It never really reached dark. We asked the manager to shut those lights off at the earliest he possibly could, and I think that was at 8 o'clock at night. He left others on in the back and the front, but those on the side of Grant Street, they shut off early. But that residual light, and those are downcast lights, spilled over and affected those neighbors. So when you make your decision, please consider that.
I'm familiar with those lights up there because I was in
Yes,
that
you were.
capacity at the time. These are totally different types of lights, though.
But
And
still,
those are, they're
they were
security type lights.
downcast lights, and they may be a different brand, they may be an older model, but they were not supposed to, when they came before the planning board, spill over beyond that fence, but they lit up enough area so those people never had darkness. And in New England, we like dark.
Okay, well,
The Midwest, that's a different story.
I understand where you're going with that.
Sorry, question
Yes.
is, 25-year guarantee. Plus a little bit.
Right, and it won't be there like every night like Lowe's are. So I'm not talking about something as frequent as that. Okay, well, thank you for your comments and questions. And before we go any further, I think it's necessary that we cover the variance criteria to make sure that that is covered. Okay, so I don't know which one of you would like to address that issue of the variance criteria itself. I mean, I could read what you have written down.
Is anyone on the board that has chance to read this? Fantastic.
Oh, I have a couple
I have to,
of
so, found anything to be in keeping with the reference document and appropriately stated,
Okay.
so, yeah. It's good.
Do you want to read it, or
No,
you don't want to
this
read it?
is too much, there's no reason to.
I tried to, in my presentation, kind of touch on the key points, which I think we emphasized several times within that narrative, is that to abide by the current Tilton bylaws associated with outdoor lighting, whether it be pedestrian lighting or athletic field lighting, keeping to a height of 35 feet, and again, in our opinion, would be more of a detriment to the neighbors than it would if we were allowed to go with the variance to a height of 70 feet. We're able to control the off-site spill in a much better fashion, as well as provide the athletes a safer field to play on.
Well, I can certainly see from the one drawing, the dispersion difference right here, which is quite significant. If you get down 35 feet, you got quite a ways, and nobody's gonna like that.
Correct.
And that's, as far as I'm concerned, it seems like you'd have to go up higher in order to have control of the whole thing. And it makes sense to me. Do you want to go over the criteria, or are you prepared to do that? Or you want us to just, I feel that we should read something into the minutes to mention the fact that we have to cover the criteria.
Well, I can read it verbatim if you'd like,
Okay.
off the application.
If you would,
I
that
can
would
do that.
probably be the way to approach this, so that, and if there's any comments after each criteria, then we can address them accordingly.
Okay. So starting with section 1. A variance is requested from Article 7 and Article 2, Section 2.4 of the zoning ordinance to permit the installation of outdoor lighting, athletic field lighting, at the new athletic facility at Tilton School in excess of 35 feet in height, as noted in Article 7, Table of Dimensional Values for Village Residential District, and 15 foot in height for outdoor lighting as noted in Article 2, Section 2.4. Subsection 1. Granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest because outdoor lighting of athletic facilities is an allowable use within the village residential district. However, athletic field lighting is unique in its design due to the area that is required to be covered to provide a safe playing area for participants. Being limited to a height of 35 feet would provide insufficient coverage of the athletic field, creating a safety issue for participants, while also limiting ability to prevent off-site spillage, which would be contrary to the public interest. Section 2. If the variance were granted, the spirit of the ordinance would be observed because if the variance were granted, Tilton School would be able to provide a safe outdoor recreation area for the students of Tilton, as well as potential town athletic programs, as it is the intent of Tilton School to open the facility to town uses consistent with other current uses of Tilton properties. In addition, granting of the variance would allow the control of light within the playing area while mitigating impact to abutting properties, which is the spirit of the ordinance. 3, granting the variance would do substantial justice because, missing page, hold on. Double-sided, thank you. The purpose of the zoning regulations of Tilton is clear, whereas they shall facilitate the adequate provision of schools and other public requirements for the town of Tilton. Currently, Tilton School has no provision for athletic fields in the town of Tilton, and the current student athletes are required to be transported and/or walk to neighboring towns to participate in outdoor sporting events. In addition, there are provisions for outside lighting which significantly limits the ability of the school to provide adequate practice for its teams. Substantial justice would be served by providing an opportunity for the school to meet this need for its students as well as the town while minimizing impact to abutting properties, which is the intent of Article 2, Section 2.4. 4. If the variance were granted, the values of the surrounding properties would not be diminished because outdoor recreational facilities as well as outdoor lighting are allowable uses in the village residential district. If the variance were granted, the values of the surrounding properties would not be diminished because the granting of the variance would mitigate the impact. If the height restriction of 35 feet were upheld, the school would have to add several additional poles on either side of the field to accommodate adequate coverage of the facility, and the height of 35 feet would result in significant glare and the inability to mitigate the impact to abutting properties, which could potentially diminish values. 5. Unnecessary hardship. Owing to a special condition of the property that distinguishes it from other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because the special condition of this property is its close proximity to abutting residential properties, environmental buffers, and topography. Tilton School currently has no outdoor athletic facilities in proximity to their campus, and the proposed property has been developed to accommodate the student athletes. The site has restrictions associated with wetlands resource areas that limit the available developable land for adequate field sizes, as well as the topographic restrictions that limit the developable space due to cost. The location of the proposed field is the only feasible location within the property, provided these special conditions. Unfortunately, this location is also in close proximity to abutters, but follows the setback regulations of the town ordinance. Due to the site being limited to allowing only one field, the option to maximize use is extending the time of play, i.e. outdoor lighting, which is an allowable use under Article 2. However, the restriction of 35 feet for a structure would eliminate the ability for the school to adequately light their athletic facility while mitigating impact to the neighbors, and therefore provide a hardship to the owner and restrict the application of an allowable use within the district. Subsection B, explain how, if the criteria in subparagraph A are not established, an unnecessary hardship will be deemed to exist if and only if, owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from the other properties in the area, the property cannot be reasonably used in strict conformance with the ordinance, and a variance is therefore necessary to enable a reasonable use of it. As noted in subparagraph A, if the criteria are not established, the hardship placed upon the school would be the addition of several light poles and a cost, and also a hardship to the neighbors with the potential for excessive glare. The town ordinance associated with outdoor athletic field lighting restricting heights to 35 feet all but eliminates the potential to safely light an adequate athletic field while minimizing impact to the abutting properties.
Okay, thank you. After the board, I think the criteria has been covered.
Yeah. My only concern was, as I mentioned earlier, that there's some reasonable assurance that the lighting will be, any discrepancies could be rectified by no school manufacturer.
Oh, we could make that as a condition.
Good, but the guarantees are over there for 5 years.
That's correct, and it would be a written condition that any inadequacies would be, how about if we do it in such a way as to just put a condition on it, they'll comply with whatever restrictions the planning board puts on it. And let them do it from their end, it's a planning issue. Good with that?
Anybody else have any issues?
Anything, George? Okay. In that case,
Move to accept the variance
move to accept the variance. We have a second.
with conditions.
With the condition of, that I suggested that they comply with any requirements the planning board puts on it. And that's the motion and the condition. And a second? And a second? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, you have your variance with the condition that you comply with whatever the planning board comes up with. Okay?
Thank you very much.
And one last thing unrelated to that, but we have to approve the minutes. Has everybody made the minutes for the last meeting?
Yes.
And when will you guys take over?
I didn't find any corrections necessary, so I would move to approve the minutes of June 17th, 2014, as written.
And a second? Okay, and all in favor? Aye. Okay, we're, take the motion to adjourn the zoning board meeting and turn it over to the planning board.
Second.
Anyway, I'm gonna give it all to Derry, and Derry can.
Thanks for coming out, guys. You both. Thank you. Have you here. Thank you.
Someone turn this off?
No?
Good thing we got the camera. There you go.